Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt, 22 minutes after the hour. I'm joined from Israel by Dr. Michael Oren, former Deputy Minister for Diplomacy of that state, former Israeli ambassador to the United States. Dr. Oren, Iran has 81 million people. They have a GDP of somewhere between $400 and $500 billion. But they do have long-range missiles. They are within months of breaking into a nuclear weapon power status. A lot of people are saying this is the guns of August going off. It's like the assassination of the Archduke in 1914. What's your assessment of those claims and of Iran's ability to launch a major attack on Israel and the region?
Israel, they can launch a major attack on Israel. But keep in mind, Iran doesn't have, tank formations. It doesn't have an air force. Its planes go back to the 1970s. Yes, it has a missile capacity. It can hit Israel. It cannot hit the United States, not yet. It does not have a nuclear weapon yet. And all this talk, that it was a very common slogan of the previous administration in Washington that the only alternative to diplomacy was war. And that was a false dichotomy, Hugh. The alternative to diplomacy was tougher diplomacy backed up by a credible military force. And that credible military force would mostly be posed from the air at 50,000 feet, at which height Iran could not touch American warplanes. So everyone has in the back of their minds, particularly in the United States, the two Gulf Wars, the invasion of Iraq, particularly in 2003. But no one's talking about the American army invading Iran. That's ridiculous. But now we've seen how, from the air, America can inflict punishing prohibitive damage on Iran and deter it. And Ronald Reagan did the same thing in the Gulf area in the 1980s with the reflagging operation of the Kuwaiti freighters when the American Navy, U.S. Navy, bombed Iranian coastal installations and deterred the Iranians. So I reject the false dichotomy. Yes, there's a credible military response backed by diplomacy. If the Iranians want to come back to the table and negotiate a deal that will meet America's requirements, meet Israel's requirements, we'll hope as well, that can only happen through a continued, very credible military threat.
Secretary Pompeo is on the record many times saying Iran can rejoin the international order very quickly if it just stops acting like a rogue regime. There are things they would have to do that. But I'd like to close by asking, we know Israel's response is satisfied applause, though muted at this point, and watching and waiting. People are being quiet. In the Arab states that are in an entente with Israel now, undeclared but real, Jordan and Egypt and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates and Kuwait and, to a lesser extent, Qatar, Oman, what is their reaction? Are they pleased today?
I think everybody is going to breathe a sigh of relief that America's back and American deterrence has been restored. We in Israel, we have to be very careful. We don't want to be blamed for dragging the United States into a war. We can defend ourselves by ourselves. Yes, we will be happy to receive American logistical and diplomatic support should we get into a battle. And we could well be the target of Iranian revenge for Soleimani's death, his assassination. But we'd rather face it now than 5 years from now. And I think everybody in the Middle East feels the same way. Iran is getting stronger. Its hegemony is expanding. Its missile capacity is expanding. Better now than then, and we're prepared.
There will be, last question, there will be hotheads in Iran. There will be people who caution that the United States is now obviously poised and ready to strike back. But it all comes down to Khamenei. I'm asking, am I correct about that? This is all up to an 80-year-old religious zealot.
Infirm medieval jihadist.
It does come down to him, right?
Yeah, I have to. My old professor was Bernard Lewis. You remember? Great
yes,
historian. He used to say that. Remember that for people like Khamenei, right? Mutually assured destruction is actually a blessing because it ensures their place in heaven. So you have to think about how he sees this, and I don't know how deeply he cares about his population. Obviously, don't, because they don't give them the money they got under the Iran nuclear deal. They gave it all to arms and terror. Yeah, it's up to him, and I don't think there's an accurate way of predicting anything he'll do, other than to brace ourselves for every possible exigency, including a war with Iran.
Dr. Michael Oren, on that sober note, I appreciate your joining me 2 days in a row. No one better to talk to than a historian, an experienced diplomat, an experienced government official, and a tanker. That's what he does when he puts on his IDF uniform in the old days. He got into tanks. Thank you, Dr. Oren. I'll be right back, America.